Hey, hello, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by Craft Beer Nation. Tonight, we have an awesome guest. We have Brad Clark from Jack O's Brewing Company. We're going to talk about the brewery and all the good stuff they're doing. But meanwhile, we're going to be playing our song. And while we're doing that, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels. Also, look us up at Facebook, Instagram, all the good places where we are. So use that time to fill up your glass and come back to watch the show. See you soon. All right, we're back, and tonight we have a very special guest. I was at the brewery not long ago, so I'm talking about Jack O's Brewing Company, and tonight with us is Brad Clark. Brad is Director of Brewery and Operation. I guess he have a few locations. So how are you doing tonight, Brad?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. With us tonight as well, we have Jeffrey J. Daves out of Texas joining part of a panel. How are you doing tonight, Jeff?
Doing well. What's up, kids? Looking forward to learning more about Jack O's.
Sounds awesome. So, Brad, tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the brewery, like how you came into, working in this awesome field. I mean, I'm a little bit of jealous because I always wanted to be a head brewer or be involved in. But I'm not that talented, so I just talk to people that are talented. So let us know a little bit how you come be around. How your journey to become a brewer.
So I started drinking, I guess, craftier beers, be it maybe like Bass or Newcastle. When I was maybe 15 or 16 or so. And so I had my beer interest peaked kind of at an earlier age. Then I went to college in Athens, Ohio at Ohio University. And through all the shitty beer I was drinking, we also would procure some of the Sierra Nevada offerings or like Allagash at the time when it was still distributed in the state. And, get some craftier things. And then when I was 19, I played a show at a brew pub in Athens, Ohio that was called O'Hooley's. And I drank beer there that was made there that evening. And I fell in love with this place. Got a fake ID, became a regular, going to college still in college. And then turned 21 and then started working at the brew pub as a door guy and a bartender. The guy that was brewing there at the time had just opened up a homebrew shop. I had been buying Brew Your Own magazines for the past 2 years since I was a freshman. I had my own spot. It was time to start brewing beer, so he set me up. Me and my good buddy Justin, we started homebrewing together. And then over time, buddy of mine, Art Ostrike, who had a bagel shop, and still does, but they were interested in getting into the bar business. And O'Hooley's was kind of going under at that point. Nobody was brewing anymore. Just wasn't really a good scene. So I said, hey, you should look into O'Hooley's. He got it. He had my home brew. It probably tasted like shit compared to now. But who knows, at the time, maybe it was all right. But it was good enough that he said, hey, if you want to stick around Athens after you graduate, we'll get you trained and you can be the brewer here. So I graduated with my creative writing degree. And then 2 days after graduation, I did my first all-grain batch on the 7-barrel system at the brew pub. And now it's been almost 11 years since brewery purchase, but about 10 and a half since that first batch. And it's just kind of grown beyond our imaginations over that time. But yeah, who would have thought? I was like 20. I was 23 at that time.
Wow, that's awesome. How big is the brewery right now?
So we have our brew pub, which is the same one that I started in. That was originally installed in '96. We took over in 2005, started brewing there in 2006. That still runs 7-barrel system. We got 5 fermenters. We do about 600 barrels a year out of the brew pub location. Then we have our production facility, which is about a mile down the road, and we'll do about 13,500 barrels this year, shooting for anywhere from 18 to 20 next year.
That's decent. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell. Are you drinking dark preparation?
Oh yeah. You drank it all, Gil. There's like nothing left in that bottle.
I just had your brick on, and I'm drinking the dark preparation. And
Gil's getting twerked.
It's anything but suck on doing this, man. This is like, actually, dark preparation made on my top 50 beers last year, which is
awesome. Thank you.
With so many beers out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are here almost from the beginning. So how does the brewery itself start? How did that whole thing going? Because I mean, is that being a college town help, or just making good beer? It doesn't matter where you are.
The college town thing is kind of funny. So we have a large drinking population. One of the things that they're not too concerned about normally is quality of beer or the price of the beer. So we run like a lot of specials at our brew pub. For instance, they've been doing Power Hour since 1996. So what Power Hour was, what it used to be was Monday through Thursday from 8 till 9. It was $1 pints. And then in 2006, when we got the brewery back up and running and it reopened, not as O'Hooley's but as Jackie O's, which happened a little bit over time, but we did $2 pints from 8 till 9. And since then we've extended it, so it's 7 days a week, and it happens at both locations, our tap room and our uptown location. So what we do is we try to bring students in. Definitely during Power Hour we're a little busier. They'll put down a couple pints for cheap, maybe have another one afterwards, and then they'll switch over to PBR or Miller Lite or whatever. We carry all those at our uptown location. But mainly what helps us a lot now that we're a larger brewer and that we're distributing is that they're leaving Athens when they graduate, or maybe not, but they're leaving Athens at some point usually. And if they stay in the state of Ohio, we may or may not have been their first kind of craft beer experience. And if they enjoy our uptown location, you can go to the store and buy a Mystic Mama or a Raz Wheat in cans. And by drinking that, it might take you back to college, which we all know was a really fun time in our lives. So that's some powerful shit. And yeah, over the years, that's definitely helped us. But it's not like a driving force of the company. We definitely see a dip in sales uptown when students aren't around. But for the most part, it's kind of a bonus. Luckily, we've been able to thrive throughout it and do a lot of different things and not make quote unquote basic beer or whatever. We've been able to brew out just a huge range of different styles and get pretty weird over that course of time as well, and do a lot of different barrel aging, sour, using local ingredients, different techniques. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's a bit of a luxury to have you guys as the college beer.
It's not bad, right? So, Brad, I got a question that may give our viewers an important insight into your character to learn more about you. What are you drinking right now?
Old Mill.
See, so how many directors of brewing operations for uber sought after craft brewers are drinking Old Mill, sitting in their own tap house?
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is not as uncommon as it sounds.
Yeah.
It might seem weird or why are you drinking shit beer when you're surrounded by barrels or whatever?
I didn't want to ask that, but that was on my mind.
Yeah. All right, so we spend the better portion of our weeks, of our lives, crafting great beer, right? Or trying to. So we're always like thinking about beer, analyzing it, smelling it, tasting it, whatever. That gets exhausting. So when you want to shut it off, like PBR, Old Mill, Coors Light, Miller Lite, I don't give a shit. Those beers are just like I don't worry about how. Like I don't analyze it. I just shut off that whole analytical side, and I'm just drinking beer and just enjoying the act of drinking beer. And I can drink a lot more of them than I can say Mystic Mama. Like this will get me in trouble if I drink 6 of them, but I can drink 12 Old Mills, and it's probably going to be all right.
So I never thought of it.
Well, because you're basically drinking water. That's why.
Yeah, but it almost sounds like for you drinking a PBR or an Old Mill, it's less work than drinking a higher end craft beer, because you're going to instinctively be trying to analyze it and
I'm going to pick it apart, and that's not fun.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just want to drink a beer, right?
It's fun for us, but it's what you do for work. So I mean, you gotta take some time off.
Yeah. I drink craft beer when I'm working.
Okay.
And
nice, very nice.
when I'm not working, I might drink a PBR or an Old Mill. Yeah. Maybe.
Nice.
So tell us a little bit about the brewery. Did you guys did you just expand, or you're looking to expand, or you're settled down for a while? Because you have 2 locations?
Yeah, we got 2 locations. So, the first location is the brew pub. So, like I said before, it was originally installed in 96. 2006 is when we kind of revitalized it, brought it back to life. February of 2013 is when we started brewing at the production facility. So we're getting close to 4 years now here. So first year we did 3,200 barrels, then we did 64, then we did 8,200, and now we're at 13,500. So there's been some growth there, absolutely, which has been interesting. But through that, the brew pub was a really interesting environment. So we were making about 60 different beers a year at the brew pub. Also had a full sour program and a full non-sour barrel aging program, which still exists today as well.
Do you brew that somewhere else?
Yeah. So they're basically 2 different breweries. So the brew pub has its own year-rounds, its own seasonals, its own imperials, barrel-aged beers, sour beers, whatever. And then the production brewery has its own stuff, which is all based off of what I was brewing at the brew pub before we had the production facility. So everything, all of our year-round cans, those are beers that we were brewing for 8 years, 5 years. They were proven, and that's why they're in cans, and that's why they're our year-rounds. But if you go to our brew pub today or tomorrow or 2 months from now, there's going to be 30 different Jackie O's beers on draft. And that's because we don't duplicate. And it's amazing. I mean, you'll have lagers, saisons, Trappist beers, IPAs, low ABV, high ABV. It goes all over the place.
Are all 30 of those eligible for the Power Hour?
No.
Okay.
Only the ones that are not barrel aged and are usually 7% ABV or under.
Okay.
But many times there could be 14 options for Power Hour.
That's sick.
So
You do. Are you? What was trying to remember the barking? Is that your pumpkin beer? Is that something you do every year?
Barking Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just our pumpkin beer. And yes, we do that every year. But that one is now just made out of the brew pub. because we use like actual pumpkins. Like we don't buy like a bunch of cans of pie filling or whatever. Like we waited on local pumpkins to get where they need to be, harvested them, then we cut them down. We have a bakery. And the bakers, so they cut them down, they roast them, then they de-skin them, and then we then add them to the beer. So what happened when we did large batches at the brewery was we were waiting on these pumpkins. Meanwhile, everybody else had released them in July or August. And by the time we release our pumpkin beer, everybody's kind of tired of pumpkin beer. So
gets a week earlier every year, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense. We're not going to like buy a pallet of pumpkin guts. Like we're going to pay somebody that grew them here and harvest them and do it right, and use real fucking pumpkin.
Well, because June, July is when they're planting the pumpkin.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense,
pumpkin beer
right?
in July. Yeah.
It's a farce. I said it.
Well,
I mean, there's no way you can release a pumpkin beer in July if what you like freeze the pumpkins like for the year, and then you
they just use the spice.
dust them off.
I did 50 pumpkin beers last year. 7 were worth to buy it from 50. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have on the barrels behind you right now? I mean, if you're listening to this, if you're not watching on YouTube, Brad is just sitting in front of a bunch of beautiful barrels. So what do you have on there right now?
These barrels have black maple in them, which is our imperial maple porter. These were filled like a month and a half ago. So these will be here for probably the next year, and then we'll empty them and put some different barrels here. This is inside the brewery. We don't have a lot of space here at the brewery, so I have a separate barrel aging warehouse. It's about 2 miles down the road, and we've got about 700 barrels stacked up there. But we keep a few in house so that when people come through, we can explain like that side of the process for us. When you come to the tap room, we usually have like 6 to 8 different barrel aged beers on draft. So this helps kind of like tie that in, which is important.
So do you bottle most of those?
Yes. Yep. Most of it gets bottled. We do a little bit of draft for us to serve at our location, and to shoot it out to a few places around Ohio and some of our top accounts that like buy a lot of our core beers, that like actually like support like the brewery and help us grow. And then we toss them some killer six stools of some barrel aged stuff that's pretty hard to get. So
yeah, I think, Brad, I mean, I haven't had a lot of your beers. I've had a couple of your mainline beers, Riot and Mama. And I was at this place in Columbus, Brazenwood Pub, and they had both of those on the menu. And I was just asking, do you have anything else? And they said, well, we do have some stuff that's not on the list, and they brought out this barrel aged dark apparition, and so I bought that, and I let it warm up for a while, and then I had that, and my takeaway was, it's the first barrel aged beer I ever had from you guys. It's like, these guys understand aging, I mean, it just, the way it kind of came through. It's a big Russian Imperial Stout, but the barrel character was, super well integrated. So, that's my perception. Whether I think it's probably accurate, is that you guys are pretty good at barrel aging.
Well, yeah, I started aging in bourbon barrels about nine years ago. So through that period, I've made a lot of mistakes. I figured out a few things. But mainly when it comes down to what I think makes our barrel aging program good, for lack of a better term, is that we have like a fresh source of barrels. That's always very important. We put beers in barrels that work with barrels well, or we brew beers so that they will work in the barrel well. We're not just like willy-nilly throwing shit in barrels and hoping that it turns out good. And then I age everything for 10 to 14 months, if not longer. So my whole thing is wood barrels are porous, so you have oxygenation that happens through the wood. So it's this like slow process of essentially staling the beer. Yep. And through that period of time, the effects of oxidation actually make the beer smoother, make it more palatable, and also bring out some different characters. And that's kind of like the hallmark of our barrel aging process is extended aging and a fresh source of barrels. And when the beer is ready, it's ready.
Yep.
And like when I'm tasting barrels, if I feel heat in my throat, it's young. Yeah. If I feel warmth in my chest, it's well on its way. And depending upon the age, then I start to make calls. But yeah, Gil, you might be picking up on a little bit of that oxidation.
Yeah. Again, for our listeners, I'm having dark apparition. This is, I think it's about 6 months on my shelf plus the aging time because I got a whole case of this one. I mean, the beer is beautiful, you know. And I got. Do you think? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is your barrel aging program, is that your claim of fame? Because to tell you the truth, that's when I traded to. I shouldn't say that, but if I would trade, I would trade with somebody. Let's say somebody send me one of your beers, but I got one of your beers and I was like, oh, Jack Yo's. I think I've heard him before, but never had anything. And I got hooked up right away. It was the one with the little, I don't know if it was a gnome on the.
Yeah, that's a black maple.
Yeah, and I was like,
there's like a moon and like a little hobbit dude.
Right, like holy crap! And then it was like, I got hooked right there. And so far, all your barrel aged, I had a wheat.
Was it woody honey?
Something like that. And
honey wheat wine.
Yeah.
Bourbon barrels, maybe it was pawpaw wheat.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think that's the name. And it's just like, you know, I travel a lot and I do go a lot of breweries, and sometimes I go out of my way. And pawpaw wheat, yeah, I think that was the name. And so that's how I decided to go to the brewery. And man, I just became a fan right there because your barrel aged program is really, really good. I think you guys don't get as much credit as you should for your barrel aged program. I know a lot of beers that we trade, that we do, that it's hard to get, are not as good as some of the beers I had from you guys.
Yeah, that's like, it's kind of a funny thing. Yeah, some people say like underrated, or there's some things that get thrown around. Mm-hmm. I'm personally like really okay with the fact that like we don't have crazy lines at our brewery, or that like
me too,
or that like our beers don't trade very well, or that we distribute, you know, like a lot of our barrel aged beer gets distributed throughout the state, so you don't actually have to come to the brewery to always get it. If you come to the brewery, you're going to get a lot more than you would if you tried to go to a retail account. Yeah, so I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, I do agree that it's funny to see what's extremely popular right now, what everybody's really hyped up about. One of the things with our barrel-aged beers, or mainly our dark beers, that I think has curbed a lot of that is that they're highly they're dry. So it's not like a saffron bomb. Our beers are finishing at like 3 to 4 to 5 Plato. So that's 1016 to 1024, 1020, whatever, 1012. So they're dry. But what we want is we want people to be able to take that 375 and they can drink it on their own, or they can split it with somebody else. But it's not a 22. It's not a 750. that you got to wait around for, like 10 of your buddies to show up to pop that crazy beer with all the different flavorings in it. And then it just sits and sits, and then you pop it, and it's over. And maybe it was great, maybe it wasn't. But that's just like not an experience that we want to be attached to. We want people to like buy the beer, buy extras if you want, put them in your cellar if you want. But like I said, we've aged them already. Like this is at peak, flavor, aroma, character that we feel. Sometimes they do get better, but yeah, we want people to just drink them, and like not like have too much sugar in it. It's just like it's palatable. It sits on the palate good. It's not overly hot, and yeah, you can just put it down and and then go to bed.
So, Brad, sorry I got on a little late. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties.
All right, Randy. Welcome to the hangout.
Thank you very much.
For you guys that listen, got joined by Randy Gardner Jr. He's our host. How you doing tonight, Randy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. We're having so much fun. I'm at my second beer at over 10%, so all is good.
Yeah. So, Brad,
he's getting fucked up.
He's well on his way. So, Brad, with you guys, with barrel aging being a big part of what you guys do, more and more breweries are opening up every day, and more breweries are starting to barrel age beers. Have you noticed like it becoming any more difficult to acquire barrels for to age your beer in, or do you have relationships with existing people that allows you to have like a pretty steady supply of barrels as you need them?
Yeah, so I definitely have a steady supply, which is great. What I do miss is having like a more like diversified bourbon barrel stock. Right now, it's kind of like one note.
All Pappy.
Fine. It's all Pappy 25. So fire bottles. We just don't put it on the label because it really doesn't matter. But what I do miss is having like a lot of like Buffalo Trace stock, which I can't get anymore. But I'm always still trying and whatnot. But yeah, so our barrel aging program, there's about 300 clean barrels, being spirit, whether it's primarily bourbon, but I do have some scotch, tequila. We got some brandy and some rum coming soon. I'm going to get back in the rum game. I had a hard time with that a few years back, but we're going to jump back into it.
It sounds like there's a story there, Brad.
Well, there's always a story with rum barrel. How many non-infected rum barrel aged beers have you had?
Yeah. Touche.
You can probably count them maybe on one hand, if not two, depending on like how hard you guys are hunting this shit down. But they're tough creatures. So we've got a barrel steamer that we can now sanitize the barrel. I know that strips flavor out of it, but I'm not going to dump 20 rum barrels again because the barrels were already infected when I got them.
I mean, you might lose a little bit of the bourbon flavor, but you can still get a lot of the barrel characters. I mean, and some of the
there's plenty of good stuff to go around.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any clean barrels, like no spirits on it, just the oak or something?
No. Nothing. Yeah, mainly it's all just different spirit barrels.
Okay.
And then we have our sour barrel program, which has a little over 400 in it. And that's like a lot of wine barrels, a lot of second use bourbon. There's also some like sherry and some Sauternes, Vinsanto, Nebbiolo, a lot of like dessert wine type oak in that program. So,
yeah, I was just about to say, about to ask, should I say, if you use any of your bourbon barrels or barrels period a second time, and like you just said, I mean, that's probably perfect territory for you to do your sour programming, right?
Yeah. We've done it both on the clean side and on the sour side. On the clean side, it's usually it's pretty rare actually. So I'm not even going to talk about that because it really doesn't happen that much. But on the sour side, it works great with like reds and browns, which is like no mystery. People have been doing that for a long time. But what it's also really good with is like higher ABV sours or like stuff that has like a lot of honey in it. I find that it works out really well. And like the sweetness and the interpretation of the oak actually helps to round out the acidic nature of that beer, and it creates like a fuller, rounder character that isn't as harsh. Because we've all kind of seen where sour is going, and I think it's reverting back now into less about how actually sour it is, and more about like subtleties, complexities. Funk is coming back into the equation, as opposed to it just all being about like acid.
Lacto, yeah.
You have like breweries like Holy Mountain, Tired Hands, guys that are like using a lot of more Brett focused mixed culture firm it's just much more like interesting, like how much of like a acidic, like a 2.9 pH beer can you really drink? And it's
Right.
just it's not fun anymore. Like let's go to a sour beer fest. Like how many of those 10 or 20 or whatever taster tickets can you really use?
Yeah.
Brendan and I tried how many? We tried every single one that.
Oh man, yeah.
Fest.
Gil and I went to a sour festival about, I don't know, maybe it was 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
And like these people did it right, because if you get a VIP ticket, they give you a gift bag.
And
It's a Ziploc bag with Tums in it. And I was like,
Hey, Brad, talking about some of the issues that some of the brewers have had, and these are not new brewers. These are guys like Clown Shoes and Bourbon County that have made unintentional sours or unintentional.
I've made a ton of them, Jeff.
Diacetyl beers. You talked about you guys have a steamer. I hear about some brewers are doing like flash pasteurization. What are your thoughts on kind of those mechanisms to kind of?
Well, yeah. So first off, from like 2011 to 2012, I pretty much infected everything that I put out. and so, I mean, that's common knowledge.
I got 24 bottles. I didn't feel anything. None of them were infected on my palate.
Well, yeah, but you weren't.
I don't have as accurate palate as I claim to then.
But yeah, like if you came back to Athens and I took you to my bottle library or whatever, we could drink a lot of really bad beer that started off being really great beer. But yeah, so the main issue that I was doing was I was running both sours and clean beers through one bottler. This is at the brew pub. It's a single head. And I was going through this crazy cleaning process, and I thought it was doing good, but there's nooks and crannies, and that stuff is invasive, and it didn't work. So we got we fucked up. It's like the short of it. And and it took us a while to like get back up to I feel and believe where we are now. But things like barrel steamers are important, mainly for like exotic barrels. At least that's how I feel with our program, because they spend time at said distillery or whatever, winery, and then they go into a shipping container, then they come to the US, then they come to you. So in all reality, there's about 2 months that passes without anything in them.
Yep.
And you can make that shorter or longer depending on what you're trying to get. So if you're trying to make a clean beer in those barrels, chances are something's already settled in. So you've got to sanitize that barrel. We also have a lab in-house. We have a full-time lab technician and a part-time assistant as well. And so we plate everything. So when a beer is destined for barrels, we monitor that beer. Well, we monitor all of our beers. All pHs and gravities are taken every day so that we know how that beer's reacting. Then if it's going to go into barrels, when it gets into the bright tank, we then test it. Make sure it comes up clean. If it's clean, we then put it into the barrels. Then 2 weeks after being in barrel, we then test every barrel. If there's a barrel that's bad, we then kick it out of the program, because I'm not going to stick those barrels into my barrel cellar and let them take rent for a whole year only to be bad at the end.
Right.
So I weed those out. It doesn't happen very often. Then when it comes time to bottle, we then test every single barrel. Plate those. I then taste every single barrel, take my notes. I compare those with the lab notes. So if they have something that comes up that says this is positive, I have a note that says this is awesome. We then retest. If I have a note that says this one's bad, but it comes up negative, I then retest. And so we have all this, and then we put all the barrels into the bright tank, then test the bright tank, then we bottle.
So you ever had like a barrel that you tried, and then when you blend all your barrels, the end result is a little different from barrels?
Yeah.
Or it's normally pretty close?
Yeah. So what I'm always shooting for is like, this is the brand. So let's say, are you drinking regular dark app or bourbon barrel dark app?
I'm drinking the age in bourbon barrel.
Okay,
dark.
perfect. All right. So like for that blend, I think we had 26 barrels for all the barrels that went into that one. So what I want bourbon barrel dark app, BBDA. So I know what that tastes like. So as I'm tasting them, I'm looking for everything. I want them all to fall within that little,
profile of that barrel.
Profile.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then if ones are outside of the profile, I'll make note on it. But that doesn't mean that they're bad necessarily, especially if they're going to all come together. But usually what I do, so let's say with like the bourbon barrel dark app, I got 26 barrels. I'll taste all 26. I'm like, 2 of these taste off. Check them with lab. They're like, yep, they showed up positive. We dump those barrels, blend everything together. And I've already done that blend because when I taste them, I take half of the sample and pour half into a pint. And then at the end, I taste the final blend. And if the final blend tastes good, blending session is over. Like I'm not going to nitpick and be like, well, this one's got more of this and this one's got more of that. We need to make a beer, and we should make as much of it as we can. So I don't get super nitpicky about stuff. Now that our program's growing a whole bunch and we have 50 to 100 barrels of each brand, maybe now I can go in and say like, well, these are like the money barrels, and maybe do like some little offshoot blend. But am I then taking too much away from the full blend by taking the money barrels? So I bounce back and forth on that. But when it comes down to it, we're just trying to make like a consistently good product that people want to buy and want to drink. And it's pretty simple, right?
That just goes to show there's an art to it, man. I mean, it's not always a science. It's a large part of it is an art.
Yeah. So, and it's also a business too. People need to understand that too. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, we are craftsmen. We get to work with our hands and create something, which is like a dying breed within this world that we now live in. So I feel very humbled to be like part of that. But it is still a business, so it's not like, you still got to like get beer into a keg, a can, or a bottle and get it out the door with some sort of cash exchange, So that's also part of it. Not to say that you have to sacrifice anything, but that's always in the back of everybody's mind. Some more than others, and I'm jealous of people like Side Project and like Casey Blending. Like those guys figured out something awesome, and they've got incredible breweries where they don't have to brew a lot of beer, and they're making some of the best beers out there, and everything's being sold over counter, no distribution, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to taste. I went to a Casey Tap Takeover during GABF at Fallen Rock in Denver, and those guys are making some awesome beers. So, along the lines, you said this is a business, right? So, what do you guys have anything on the horizon that you would like to share? Anything coming up?
I mean, it's right now. So our business is pretty diversified. We've got almost 130 employees. So we have the brew pub. I've got 2 pub brewers up there. We have like the restaurant, the kitchen, servers, wait staff, front of the house, all that stuff. We then have the production brewery, which is a handful of people. We have a bakery, which has 3 full-time employees. Like if you go to our restaurant, every single piece of bread that you touch or eat is made in-house. We have a farm, 22-acre farm, so a lot of our produce comes from our farm. And we also have a contracting company. So all of our plumbing, electrical, and carpentry work is all done in-house. So yeah, the business side of it is pretty intertwined and kind of complicated. But what we want is people that want to stay in Athens and want to live here and that are happy here and take pride in their job and love what they do. We want them to stay here. And hopefully through working at Jackie O's, that is what they're able to find. This is way more of a family than it is some sort of like hierarchy thing. This is a lifestyle company. Art and I started this 11 years ago so that we could stay in Athens. So now we have the opportunity to make beer with our friends and die. So we don't take that lightly. And
that's awesome.
And that's very important to us. So then part of that then goes into consistency, quality, transparency, honesty, like all these things, like so that people are comfortable with us, believe in us, feel a connection. I mean, we're regular fucking dudes. We work, 5 days a week, if not more. We have bad days, we have great days. But the fact that we get to do this with all of our friends and the end product is beer is pretty special. So you can't be a dick. You can't be an asshole. You wake up and you're happy to go to work every day. Yeah. And that is everything.
That's awesome. Awesome and admirable.
Yeah. In rant.
So let me shift gear a little bit here because we're winding down, and we have I just want to give an opportunity. At least we have a couple online questions here, and we have a pseudo question or pseudo beer question, or I said semi beer question. One of our viewers is saying it seems that Hillary Clinton was at your brewery. We don't take sides here on air, at least. I'm not going to ask who you're voting for. So they want to know, was it cool or was it just another day at the job? That was the question.
No, it was definitely not another day at the job, and it was cool because Secret Service dudes are hilarious. Those guys were like a ton of fun to hang out with. It was funny. Before she came in, they had like this table set, and they're like, "All right, everybody, empty your pockets." And like, it was like all the Cellarman crew, all the packaging, and all of a sudden, there's like 10 knives on the table.
Do you think when you're in the election trail, you got to stop at the brewery to make life worth? Is that what it is?
Well, no. So she was going to stop in Athens anyway. There were 5 locations. They scouted this like on a Saturday. Sunday night at 7 p.m., they confirmed that they wanted to use our location. We didn't invite anybody. This was like, we didn't send out like a bunch of invites to important people like, hey, come by our brewery, which is like what everybody thought it was or something, which is stupid. But anyways, they said, we would love to use your location. And that's Sunday at 7 p.m. And Tuesday at 3 p.m. is when she's going to do her talk. So we just had to like whip that place into shape and change all the schedules and all that. But yeah, it was a really interesting thing that happened. We did that, then drove 8 hours to Philly to go to CBC. And then I flew back home and then went to Copenhagen Beer Celebration a day after that. It was like this whirlwind. I was at Dark Lord Day, came home Sunday, Hillary came, CBC, Copenhagen. It was a
nice
whirlwind.
It's a rough life you live. It's a rough life you live, man.
You'd be surprised. It's not. I got to do some great shit, but man, that's exhausting. You know.
Cool. Well, do you guys have any upcoming releases that you want to talk about before?
So end of next week, we're putting out Black Maple. It's going to probably be Thursday or Friday of next week. We're also going to do a vanilla version that's going to be tap room exclusive. We've never done that before, but we're doing it. So that should be fun. Like we always like to slip in like little bonuses every time we do a release. So that's exciting. And then before the end of the year, we're going to do Woody Honey, probably right around like early December. And then our 11th anniversary is going to be January 6th and 7th. Normally it's the first weekend of December, but there's a bunch of stuff going on in Athens and at OU, and all the hotels were booked up. So we asked the hotels, when are you guys empty? When's Athens sleeping?
Yeah.
And that's why we moved our 2016 anniversary to 2017. If that makes sense. But that's what's going to happen there. And there we're going to release like Bourbon Barrel Dark App, Bourbon Barrel Vanilla Coffee Dark App, Scotch Barrel Dark App, and Spirit Beast. And maybe a few other things. So.
And can we expect that you guys will be pouring at Fobab in Chicago?
Yes, we'll be pouring at Fobab in Chicago, yes.
Well, you know what you're going to be pouring already, or it's still up in the air?
Champion Ground, Bourbon Barrel Oro Negro, and Noble Sorrel. Or Sorrel. Okay. Sorry, Seth. Sorrel.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's
we're not the only one who mispronounce beer names.
Well, I'm not going to be able to make Fobab this year, but I certainly plan to be there next year. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm not going to be able to make it this year, and this is the first year that we're entering stuff. I can't go, but yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe going next year. We'll see what happens.
Sure.
I've been shooting Fobab since like 2010, and I finally got my shit together, and so we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll meet up there next year for sure. Then
sounds good. You got it, baby. Let's have some beers
for sure.
Old Mills and PBRs.
Hey, look, my pops still and my uncles still drink Old Mill every single day.
Yep.
Since I've been alive, so
there's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, I do, but that's fine. I just want to say, Brad, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me.
We love your beer. I want to thank you especially for making that English barley wine.
Yeah.
Because between you and me here, nobody listens to it. I don't understand what American barley wine is.
It's like a triple IPA. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know. It's a hoppy barley wine. Yeah.
So thank you very much. I want to thank Jaffe for sticking around, and Randy, thanks very much. If you're watching this, listen to our podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and all those places, Facebook. Thanks again, Brad, and thanks for you for watching. And next week, don't miss our Pints and Quarts. We will have Black Project beer. Was that James Howard?
Yeah, James Howard.
James Howard. Yeah. So see you guys next week. Thank you very much. Have an awesome week and cheers, you guys.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Brad.
guys.